Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to our series called Women in Islam versus Women in Judeo-Christianity. And today's topic is Eve's legacy. The image of Eve as temptress in the Bible has resulted in an extremely negative impact on women throughout the Judeo-Christian traditions. All women were believed to have inherited from their mother, the biblical Eve, both her guilt and her goal. Consequently, they were all untrustworthy, morally inferior, and wicked. Menstruation, pregnancy, and childbearing were considered the just punishment for the eternal guilt of the cursed female gender. In order to appreciate how negative the impact of the biblical Eve was on all her female descendants, we have to look at the writings of some of the most important Jews and Christians of all time. Let us start with the Old Testament and look at it from what is called the wisdom literature, in which we find, I quote, "I find more bitter than death the woman who is a snare, whose heart is a trap, and whose hands are chains. The man who pleases God will escape her, but the sinner she will ensnare. While I was still searching but not finding, I found one upright man among 1,000, but not one upright woman among them all." In another part of the Hebrew literature, which is found in the Catholic Bible, we read, "No wickedness comes anywhere near the wickedness of a woman. Sin began with the woman, and thanks to her, we all must die." Jewish rabbis listed 9 curses inflicted on women as a result of the fall. I quote, "To the woman he gave 9 curses and death, the burden of the blood of menstruation and the blood of virginity, the burden of pregnancy, the burden of childbirth, the burden of bringing up the children. Her head is covered as one in mourning. She pierces her ear like a permanent slave or slave girl who serves her master. She is not to be believed as a witness, and after everything, death." To the present day, Orthodox Jewish men in their daily morning prayer recite, and I quote, "Blessed be God, King of the universe, that thou hast not made me a woman." The woman, on the other hand, thank God every morning for making me according to thy will. Another prayer found in many Jewish prayer books: "Praise be God that he has not created me a Gentile. Praised be God that he has not created me a woman. Praised be God that he has not created me an ignoramus." The biblical Eve has played a far bigger role in Christianity than in Judaism. Her sin has been pivotal to the whole Christian faith, because the Christian conception of the reason for the mission of Jesus Christ on earth stems from Eve's disobedience to God. She had sinned and then seduced Adam to follow her suit. Consequently, God expelled both of them from heaven to earth, which had been cursed because of them. They bequeathed their sin, which had not been forgiven by God, to all their descendants, and thus all humans are born in sin. In order to purify human beings from their original sin, God had to sacrifice Jesus, who is considered to be the Son of God, on the cross. Therefore, Eve is responsible for her own mistake, her husband's sin, the original sin of all humanity, and the death of the Son of God. In other words, one woman acting on her own caused the fall of humanity. What about her daughters? They are sinners like her and have to be treated as such. Listen to the severe tone of St. Paul in the New Testament. I quote, "A woman should learn in quietness and full submission. I don't permit a woman to teach or to have authority over a man. She must be silent, for Adam was formed first, then Eve, and Adam was not one deceived. It was the woman who was deceived and became a sinner." Saint Tertullian was even more blunt than Saint Paul. While he was talking to his best beloved sisters in the faith, he said, "Do you not know that you are each an Eve? The sentence of God on this gender of yours lives in this age. the guilt must of necessity live too. You are the devil's gateway. You are the unsealer of the forbidden tree. You are the first deserter of the divine law. You are she who persuaded him whom the devil was not valiant enough to attack. You destroyed so easily God's image, man, on account of your desert. Even the Son of God had to die. Cain was faithful to the legacy of his predecessors. He wrote to a friend, I quote, "What is the difference whether it is in a wife or a mother? It is still Eve, the temptress, that we must beware of in any woman. I fail to see what use woman can be to man if one excludes the function of bearing children." Centuries later, Saint Thomas Aquinas still considered woman as defective. As regards the individual nature, woman is defective and misbegotten. For the active force is the male seed, tends to the production of a perfect likeness in the masculine gender, while the production of woman comes from a defect in the active force, or from some material indisposition, or even from some external influence. Finally, the renowned reformer Martin Luther could not see any benefit from a woman but bringing into the world as many children as possible, regardless of any side effects. If they become tired or even die, that does not matter. Let them die in childbirth. That's why they are there. Again and again, all women are denigrated because of the image of Eve, the temptress. Thanks to the Genesis account. To sum up, the Judeo-Christian conception of woman has been poisoned by the belief in the sinful nature of Eve and her female offspring. If we now turn our attention to what the Quran has to say about women, we will soon realize that the Islamic conception of women is radically different from the Judeo-Christian one. Let the Quran speak for itself.
إن المسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات والقانتين والقانتات والصادقين والصادقات والصابرين والصابرات والخاشعين والخاشعات والمتصدقين والمتصدقات والصائمين والصائمات والحافظين فروجهم والحافظات والذاكرين الله كثيرا والذاكرات أعد الله لهم مغفرة وأجرا عظيما. المؤمنون والمؤمنات بعضهم أولياء بعض يأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر ويقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة ويطيعون الله ورسوله أولئك سيرحمهم الله إن الله عزيز حكيم. استجاب لهم ربهم أني لا أضيع عمل عامل منكم من ذكر أو أنثى بعضكم من بعض. من عمل سيئة فلا يجزى إلا مثلها ومن عمل صالحا من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فأولئك يدخلون الجنة البيت يرزقون فيها بغير حساب. من عمل صالحا من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فلنحيينه حياة طيبة ولنجزينهم أجرهم بأحسن ما كانوا يعملون.
It is clear that the Quranic view of women is no different than that of men. They both are God's creatures whose sublime goal on earth is to worship their Lord, do righteous deeds, and avoid evil, and they both will be assessed accordingly. The Quran never mentions that the woman is the devil's getaway or that she is a deceiver by nature. The Quran also never mentions that man is God's image. All men and all women are his creatures. That is all. According to the Quran, a woman's role on earth is not limited only to childbirth. She is required to do as many good deeds as any other man is required to do. The Quran never says that no upright women have ever existed. To the contrary, the Quran has instructed all the believers, women as well as men, to follow the example of those ideal women such as the Virgin Mary and the Pharaoh's wife.
وضرب الله مثلا للذين آمنوا امرأة فرعون إذ قالت رب ابن لي عندك بيتا في الجنة ونجني من فرعون وعمله ونجني من القوم الظالمين. ومريم ابنة عمران التي أحصنت فرجها فنفخنا فيه من روحنا وصدقت بكلمات ربها وكتبه وكانت من القانتين.